What's going on, motivators? We got another video. We got to talk about the Supreme Court ruling on Louisiana. Let's get into this.
Jan Crawford, who has been reading through the opinion. Jan?
Well, Major, we just got this ruling within the last couple minutes. The justices in a 6-3 vote, a decision written by Justice Samuel Alito for the other 5 conservatives, are striking down a second majority black district in Louisiana, ruling that state officials focused on race, and that amounted to an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. Now, this decision is a major one under the Voting Rights Act. It will go well beyond Louisiana. It's going to make it, based on what we're seeing so far, it will make it harder for state officials to draw up these so-called majority-minority districts, which have been used for decades and have increased black representation and minority representation in Congress. And it also, I think, will call into question about a dozen or so.
I'm all for increasing minority in Congress, which you got to represent the people. But Democrats are using this as a ploy, as a weakness, as a tool for their own purposes and not for the minority purposes. Plain and simple. Call a spade a spade. They were using it for sole purpose of power and not the intended purposes of when it was first enacted. And from what the Supreme Court is saying, that one piece, at that point, it did make sense. Now it no longer makes sense.
Good morning. Okay, so this at first blush here is a win for the plaintiffs who were not black plaintiffs. They were non-minority voters who challenged this decision. These two districts that were minority majority, essentially, Louisiana had drawn up districts and then they were told in a legal battle that they had not represented black and minority voters sufficiently. They went back and drew a second district. So they had 2 of these minority majority districts. Well, then non-black voters sued and said, this is now violating our rights on the basis of race. So it looks like this is a 6-3 decision. There is one concurrence here, but it looks like the dissent sticks together with Justices Kagan, Sotomayor, and Jackson. But here's what the majority says. They say in some, because the Voting Rights Act did not require Louisiana to create an additional majority-minority district, no compelling interest justified the state's use of race in creating SB 8. That was those 2 new districts. That map is an unconstitutional gerrymander, and its use would violate the plaintiff's constitutional rights. Now, this
like I said, wow. All of the maps that they have right now, you could see it was not about fairness. Democrats have been playing this gerrymander game forever, using different tools under the guise of fairness and civil rights. But it's all about power with the Democrats. We've noticed. And now the Supreme Court is seeing it for what it is and is being struck down.
This opinion is almost 100 pages long, so we're going through to see if it says something more broadly about the Voting Rights Act. That had been the fear on the left, that somehow this decision, if it was favorable for those challenging these maps, that it would somehow do a big chunk out of the Voting Rights Act. Haven't gotten to language that suggests that yet. It sounds like this decision is primarily about what happened in Louisiana. So we'll keep digging through this, but for right now, it's a win for those who were challenging these 2 minority-majority districts. Now, as we read through this and figure out the broader implications, there were 20+ districts across the country that would have potentially lined up with this decision. They could be open to challenges that they were drawn on the basis of race, or that it was the primary factor that was used in drawing those districts. Most of those are throughout the South.
Man, no matter how you look at it, it might be over for Democrats. You're looking at 5 to 8 seat. It could be a 19 to 25 seat change. Man, that will be crazy. Now that will put Republicans up so much that Democrats will have no choice. They played with fire.
The decision could change voting and the electoral map as we know it. And not just in the near term, but for decades to come. This case is monumental, and it's important you understand what's going on. This is going to be the most simple explanation you're going to get. Okay, so background. Justices aren't deciding on the entire Voting Rights Act of 1965, but a specific provision called Section 2. Daria, what's Section 2? Section 2 is a specific provision that allows citizens, usually those of color, challenge unfair voting practices. If they feel like they're being treated unjustly or disenfranchised, particularly through racial gerrymandering, Section 2 allows them to ring that alarm.
Has been struck down, and the court held that the map considered race and created a majority-minority district. So Louisiana is likely, as a result of this ruling, to lose 1 Democratic seat. But the real problem is other states following suit. Later today, Florida could be voting on a map that would similarly gain 4 seats for Republicans, and Mississippi is also following suit. The result of the Supreme Court decision could lead to a gain for the Republican Party of up to 10 congressional seats in advance of the midterms.
If you don't hear from me today, it's because I'll be reading all 92 pages of the Supreme Court decision in the case of Louisiana v. Calles, where they explain to us why the fuck they gutted Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And then I have to figure out how to explain to you all what this means for us moving forward.
I feel bad about it. Not for me, because I have a short time being here. But for my grandchildren, my great-grands, I do not want them going through what I experienced.
400 years worth of generational wealth stolen from our ancestors, Native Americans, ancestors, mind you, stolen. They didn't earn it, took it, and have had a 400 plus year head start and generational wealth. And they can't even handle Black people having one full generation of bare minimum voting right access. Bare minimum. We ain't even nowhere near the same level what y'all got. We just talking about voting rights. My grandmother is almost 80. And in her lifetime, she has literally gone from Black people hardly having any voting rights, especially Black women, to gaining a semblance of voting rights, to now those voting rights being back on the chopping block in one lifetime span. Grandmother. This is,
So I saw that the Supreme Court just ruled on the Voting Rights Act case. I'm getting ready for work, but yeah, they made that shit weaker. The Republicans are going to get rid of majority Black and majority Latino districts, because partisan gerrymandering is totally fine. It's only the racial gerrymandering that they have a problem with.
Again, these people are going to lie to you in your face. It's not they struck down Section 2 like voters' right, you cannot vote, none of that stuff. So far, all they're asking now is to give strong evidence that it's being done versus just saying because we are Black, therefore they have to gerrymander based on discrimination, or if you're Latino. So it's not a big deal as far as they're making it out to be like, oh, Black people cannot vote anymore, voters' rights are gone, and we're going to remove people from Congress. That's not what it is at all. You could still have Black people in Congress. All they're saying that the lines being drawn to favor the Democrats in the race bait type scenarios by saying the only reason they're going to draw it with the race gerrymandering is to supplement Black people. That's what they're showing. Provide strong evidence of that. So far, that's what I'm seeing from it. So a Black person could still run in a district. A Latino person could still run a district. But now it won't just be based on a gerrymandered partisanship of how Democrats used to have it. Plain and simple. They're scared. They're lying. They're running amok. But again, I knew if this went in the favor of the Republicans, it's over. Talking about the midterms. That's a net 10 to 20 seats. Plus Florida. So all these shenanigans, they were throwing hats up in the air. Where are they now? They're crying.
Districts, as you know, Major, have been a way for Democrats to pick up seats in some of those states, those red states in the South. So this ruling is a win, I think we can say, for Republicans. But legally,
boom, 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 boom. She just said the quiet part out loud. It's not even on Fox News. It was a way for Democrats to pick up seats in the South. So up north, they could have played it up in all the blue states, but they found a way to pick up seats in the South by racial gerrymandering. And again, I'm all for people being in Congress with different races. Nowadays, you could vote whomever you want. It's about having a good candidate. I don't see any racial divide that will prevent any good candidate from being up there. Georgia, Florida, you got Byron. You got every different race all over the place. California, everybody is everywhere. You don't need the racial gerrymandering. Put up a good candidate. But she said it right there. It was a way for Democrats to steal seats. Plain and simple.
This is a Supreme Court that going back 20 years or more has been saying in case after case, a consistent line of cases, that the Constitution is colorblind. And that's why we've seen the Supreme Court do things like throw out affirmative action in college admissions. This line of cases very consistent with the court's ruling today. What about the midterms? I think this ruling coming today, 6 months after it was argued back in October, may come too late to have an impact on these upcoming midterm elections. I think the focus will be going forward, limiting states from considering race when they're trying to consciously and intentionally draw up districts to increase minority representation. That means, Major, that you might not have as many of those kind of ink blot states or states that have districts that zigzag like a Z, where they go from, like this one did, from Shreveport all the way down 250 miles to Baton Rouge, scooping up black voters along the way to, again, pick up voters to get enough black voters there to have that majority. So I think, that will restrict some of those those districts for sure.
We are fucked. The Supreme Court struck down the Louisiana majority district. This practically guts Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act.
Republicans are going to eliminate almost every single black Democrat in the South by 2028 because of this Supreme Court decision today, and we must be ready to fight back in all of the states controlled by Democrats. So I expect us to draw a map like this in California for 2028. Maybe we let them have one Republican seat because we need to be ready to fight back everywhere.
Again, this is what those people don't understand. Like, I have shown this map before. They have nowhere else to rig. After California's new rig, and there's only 5 seats. So if they net another 4, there is still places that Republicans could still take out more seats. Plus this fake gerrymandering that they had in the South, which is no longer needed for representation. That is more seats being allowed. These people don't understand. And if the entire South was to go with the Section 2, which they're lying as far as what it is, it's not going to take voter representation out from black people. It's just going to take the rigging that Democrats took for black people with this racial gerrymandering that they had. You've seen the lines. It doesn't even look appropriate. But they're scared now. They're running scared. And now they're talking about, well, we should go ahead and draw some lines in the North with blue states. There is nowhere else to rig in Democrat states. These people, they want to rig, but there is nothing left. Go check your own maps. There are nowhere else. Very few seats that you guys could gain anymore. And I'm pretty sure it's not going to make up for the balance. But good news for Republicans, bad news for Democrats. Florida comes back. Everything is legal from Florida's constitution. Man, we are good. That's a net 4 seats we're going to have in Florida. And it looks like they just lost 4 from that one in Virginia. Republicans, we're running high. Good things happen to those who wait. Anyway, let me know what you think inside the comments. All right, motivators, if you enjoy what you've seen and heard, please like, comment, share, but most importantly, subscribe to Black Veterans Perspective. Stay motivated.